You know, I was giving this some thought, and the conclusion I came to is this. I don't know why anyone would want to vote Republican this year. They literally are telling the citizenry that they're against the violence that we're seeing in our general society. But think about it like this. Prior to the last 2 years of this new administration, the previous 4 years before these two were some of the most violent years in our nation's history. Now, one can say, and it would be a factual based statement, that the violence has continued since the previous administration. It really has. Now, I'm not going to say all of it is due to politics, because you do have a pandemic, and that had an effect. It really did. But even prior to coronavirus, see, I'm not going to let them get away with what they're trying to do. Because Republicans and conservatives are saying, well, January 6th was a one-time thing. And that happened during coronavirus. But long before January 6th, because they have very short-term memories, you had something very similar to this happen in Charlottesville, Virginia. So like I said now, this is twice where large swaths of the conservative movement have used violence to try to provoke what they say would be a civil war. Now, knowing all of that, and knowing that Republican leaders have not done anything to quell this, in fact, the leader of their party, one could argue, every time things have popped off or have happened, he's either instigated it or condoned it. Now, for people to say about political violence when you had a previous president who condoned it and stoked it, I wonder how sincere they are in really talking about wanting to address political violence. Because one could argue that a lot of this crime we're seeing outside is because people are like, oh, we saw what happened with all the political violence that was stoked up under the Trump administration. So now I can just go outside and be violent. You know, they say the rock sinks down. It starts at the top and sinks down. If people saw all of that violence for really 5 years, because in 2015, beginning of 16, he was running for president. Do you remember the campaign rallies? How violent they were? People fighting. So there's that one element. But here's the next one. This one's more important. We need new people. See, everybody knocks that, but I don't. I think it's very important. Especially younger people. You know, a lot of times people don't participate because they don't feel any representation and they don't hear their voices. It's just that simple. If somebody doesn't feel that they're going to be represented, why would they participate? So you can have the right policy, but if nobody participates, then you never get to implement it. This year, I don't understand how anybody can vote Republican. I think across the board, everywhere, you can't vote for Republicans after what they did. I know some people are saying just don't vote for the election deniers and the insurrectionists. But at this point, the entire party condoned that behavior. You know, in Pennsylvania 12, this is a perfect congressional district for what I'm talking about. You've got the Republican Mike Doyle running against Democrat Summer Lee. And I want to make this clear. This is a very Democrat district. But the Republican by the name of Mike Doyle might be confusing because the Democrat was also named Mike Doyle. And he served for over 2 decades. So it just so happens the Democrat has the same name as the Republican. So I don't want people to get confused. This Mike Doyle would aid and abet an insurrection. The other Mike Doyle would have been aghast at even the thought of when he first entered Congress that an insurrection attempt would happen during his tenure. The Republican Party could have operated in a bipartisan way and said, we're going to put aside politics and really try to get to the bottom of January 6th. That's all Liz Cheney, Congresswoman Liz Cheney, was trying to tell the Republican Party to do. She was trying to tell them that this is bigger than just the usual victory. And for that, they ostracized her, demeaned her, and ultimately kicked her out of the party. This is what they did for just wanting to investigate the nation's worst attack. Okay, that was, some people are like trying to downplay it as though that wasn't as severe as September 11th. It was. It was just as traumatizing to any American citizen. And now they're trying to rebrand this as some form of patriotism. No. You attacked the nation's Capitol building, regardless of the reason. And they were stoked and provoked by the leader of the nation and the leader of the Republican Party. Don't forget that. Now the Republicans come and tell you they're for law and order, as Mike Doyle, the Republican who's running in Pennsylvania 12, is saying. He's saying Summer Lee wants to release criminals. Sir, your own party had thousands of people gather on the Capitol not 2 years ago and storm it. Which party has been protecting them and not wanting to even investigate what happened? Yours. So I really don't understand how they're trying to peg Democrats as being lawless and for criminals, when their party condoned the biggest criminality act this nation has ever seen. I don't think it goes over some people's head, an attack on the nation's capital. I think the people, that just goes over their head. They don't understand the significance of what holds together and binds a democracy. A Democrat republic. You know, it had never happened in the history of this country that we had not had a peaceful transfer of power from the outgoing commander-in-chief to the incoming commander-in-chief. And it had never happened. And we've had strife and turmoil and conflicts in this country. For goodness sake, we had a civil war. And think about that. At that point in our nation, we're already fighting. And still, never any attack on the Capitol. And now this party wants to tell us about how they're for law and order. They're for being opposed to political violence. No. You can't plot a coup and then tell us you are now pacifist. It doesn't work like that. Look. One, we need new people. And two, we definitely don't need to send back the same type of people who would condone and plot another coup. It's a good thing Summer Lee fits into neither of those categories. Look, you need somebody that has new ideas. Has tenacity and fortitude, and is willing to get the job done. The Republicans are not willing to do anything anymore. Infrastructure. Think about that. Infrastructure. Now they're all taking credit for these infrastructure projects all over the country. They want credit for it. But the only thing is, it wouldn't have happened if they had it their way, because they voted against it. So when Mike Doyle, if he wins that race in Pennsylvania 12, I'm telling you what he's going to do. He's going to go to D.C., just like every other Republican, and vote against everything. And if anything manages to get done, he's going to take credit for it, even though he had no help in getting it done. And in a lot of cases, probably obstructed too from they were against it. They were calling the infrastructure bill socialist. Now all of a sudden, now that the repair work is happening, people have jobs. Now it's putting out press releases saying, I've always wanted this thing done in my district. Well, not to the point where you wanted to vote in favor of having it done. Because when you had that opportunity, you voted against it. See, Summerlee is not going to do those things. And that's why I say you need new people. Because the same way we've been doing politics, it's not working. It really isn't. And Summerlee realizes that. Because she's young enough to realize and see it. We need youth. We need tenacity, fortitude, and somebody who's willing to get the job done. I can't stress that enough. Summerlee is willing to get the job done. You send people to Washington, and they don't. Summerlee will. So I'm asking you to vote for Summerlee. Don't get confused. The old Mike Doyle is not this Mike Doyle. This Mike Doyle wants to pretend as though he cares about crime. But he doesn't. Because if he did, he wouldn't even be running as a Republican. I don't know how you can be for law and order and say this after January 6th and then say you're a Republican. It makes no sense at all. None whatsoever. So don't get confused. Our Democrat candidate is Summerlee. This is in Pittsburgh. So we better not get confused, because we'll be very upset with this new Mike Doyle. He's nothing like the old one. And I would just tell the community that too, because it can be confusing. I would be like, the old Mike Doyle was good for you. This new Mike Doyle is nothing like the old one. Make it simple and easy for people. Because like I said, it goes to the Republicans. Now, they claim he has the same first and last name. It's a common name. But the Republican Party had to nominate somebody with the same first and last name. It just goes to their trying to bamboozle you. That's the only game the Republicans had in town this year. They know how bad they screwed up. So now they have to try to bamboozle us. So don't get bamboozled in District 12 of Pennsylvania. This new Mike Doyle is nothing like the old one.